Hello everyone, this is the continuation of Midoriya Izuku's Quirkless friend. This will be chapter 4, titled, When Were You Going to Tell Me? Bakugo Katsuki knew the answer. He had to know. He grew up right alongside a quirkless kid his whole life. He had even tried on those blasted red shoes. The toes were too wide and his feet kept slipping. It was a pain for his 6-year-old self. Katsuki didn't raise his hand, though. He rarely did in class. He just waited until the teacher started ranting about some biased thing. Katsuki hated to admit it, but living with Deku his whole life meant he knew quirkless were physically better than them. If only Deku had a backbone growing up, maybe they could have stayed friends. He hated thinking about their shared past. He had too much to atone for. He was surprised when Aizawa-sensei called on Deku, and he had answered. Sure, there was anxiety bleeding into his voice, like an effing waterfall, but he still answered. They went back and forth with questions and answers until Deku answered something wrong. Scratch that. Until Deku straight up effing lied. Katsuki furrowed his brow in confusion. Deku never lied. Not even to the people he should have lied to. He's not, Deku stuttered out. He's not, around anymore. He, left after middle school. Oh, I'm sorry, Aizawa said, bowing his head. Deku wasn't as clever as he thinks he was, phrasing it the way he did. Katsuki knew what he meant. He also knew that it was probably referring to the one thing he regrets saying the most. Aizawa asked for more information regarding quirkless people, and Deku gave the man his textbook, which was filled with notes and corrections. That was a lot of misinformation. Katsuki frowned at the sight of the book. He knows what most people say about quirkless people was usually wrong, but he never imagined there was this much misinformation. The class continued, with Aizawa teaching from Deku's book before they were excused for the day. Deku went up to the front as Katsuki left with his gang of followers. He didn't come out. He sits in the kitchen, his claimed space, since none of the extras, except Deku, knew how to effing cook properly, and waited for the nerd to get back from whatever Aizawa held him back for. Can you believe that Midoriya knew someone quirkless? Dunceface said. I know, right? I would never even talk to someone like that, Raccoon Eyes replied. I'm kind of glad that his friend didn't make it into UA. That would be too dangerous for a quirkless person, Stupid Hair said. I wonder where his friend went, though. Deku seemed sad when he said that, Round Cheeks said, frowning. Don't they have, an all-quirkless school or something? Kaminari asks. I believe so. It would be insufficient to place quirkless people with normal students, Glasses states. I guess that makes sense. I wouldn't want to go to a school with a quirkless student, Raccoon Eyes says, making a face. I wonder where it is, though. I bet we could set up a meeting so Deku could see his friend again, Round Cheeks proposed. That is a wonderful idea, Ponytail agreed. Katsuki had enough of this. How blind could they be? What the F did you think Deku meant when he said his friend left? He snapped, walking into the common room. That he went to effing Canada? No, dipshoots. He took a swan. Kachan? A voice spoke up from behind him, stopping the sentence Katsuki was going to say. He turned around and faced Deku, holding his textbook in his arms. It wasn't your fault, Deku said, looking down. Then why does it feel like it is? Katsuki wants to ask. Instead, he says, Your room. We need to talk. Deku nods before turning away and walking up the stairs. He never took the elevator. Katsuki turned to look at the group. This isn't over. I'll be back to beat some sense into you. He waited for someone to dare and defy him. He left when no one did. The walk to Deku's room was short, but not short enough. Deku had left the door open a crack, so Katsuki marched right in, closing the door behind him. What do you want to talk about? Why did you lie to Aizawa? He asks. Katsuki knew Deku his whole life, and he rarely lies, and never about anything like this. I didn't, Deku answers. You did! You basically told him you killed yourself, Katsuki says. I didn't kill myself. He did. That quirkless kid died, and it's my fault, Deku shouts. You are him, Katsuki refutes. We're not the same. He was quirkless and useless. I have a quirk. I have a worth now, Deku argues. He was never useless. You were never useless, Katsuki argues back. He never thought he'd say that out loud, but as soon as he said it, he knew it was true. You're the one who told me he was, Deku snaps. I was effing wrong, okay? Katsuki says. I was wrong, but I'm too late to make amends. It's not too late if it was never supposed to happen, Deku says, barely over a whisper. It's my fault for letting him die like that. If it's anyone's fault, it's mine, Katsuki snaps back. It's my fault that quirkless kid never got a chance to be a hero. I know that now. Katsuki tries not to cry. I need to atone, he says, his voice feeling hoarse. He refuses to cry. He can't cry over something that's his fault. You weren't the one to let him die, Deku states, tears falling freely down his face. You weren't the one who killed him. Do I deserve to be the one living? Deku asks, failing to stop the tears that fall down his face. Bakugo Katsuki knew the answer. He grew up right alongside the boy, after all. This is the conclusion of Chapter 4 of Midoriya Izuku's Quirkless Friend. There is one more chapter left in this series, and it will be out soon. This one was definitely emotional, and I remember really being into it the first time I read it, so I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening.